Y'all, Mariah The Scientist just became the center of one of the messiest hip-hop clashes of the year. I'm talking viral New York Fashion Week clips, Young Thug's jailhouse insults, GloRilla turning those words into a diss track, and now Young Miami stepping in to defend Mariah while mocking Glo for being a colorist. And y'all, these clapbacks are getting uglier by the day because now the city girls are involved. But here's a twist. What started out as playful rap shots is now exploding into a conversation about colorism, female loyalty in hip-hop, and whether GloRilla just crossed the line that she can't walk back from. Y'all stick around because the deeper we go, the more receipts we uncover from Thug's leaked calls to Mariah's bold moves on tour, and Miami turning this whole feud into a cultural moment. Before I break down how this beef spiraled though, let's rewind a little bit because Mariah the Scientist's history really matters here. This isn't just Thug's girlfriend or some R&B side act. She's the girl who graduated high school at just 16 years old, proving early on that she's gifted way beyond the music.
You graduated at 16. That's fire. You gotta clap it for yourself. Yeah, these hoes is dumb out here.
She's talented, smart, beautiful, and at this point in her career, she's stacking real money off her craft. So when GloRilla tried to clown her as Tweety Bird in a diss, it wasn't just petty shade. It felt like an attack on everything Mariah represents. A woman who's been standing tall through Thug's Rico mess, through public humiliation, and still managing to sell out these shows. And that's exactly why Young Miami felt the need to step in later. Because what Glo said didn't just sound like a diss, it sounded like a lot of colorist digs too. But before we get into Miami's defense, let's rewind a little bit to how shots first started flying. Now Lil Mariah, she showed up at Laquan Smith's New York Fashion Week show in a whole different era of herself. Now she got platinum blonde hair, bow cutout dress on, walking in like she knew the whole room would stop.
What do you think? Curl this out.
Yeah.
You want to do it really quick?
Yeah,
we
you look so good.
look like a different person.
And did, because Ty Dolla $ign, Lotto, Ice Spice, Lil' Kim, everybody was in the building. Even Wendy Williams popped out, which had the whole crowd buzzing. But while fashion insiders were hyping up her look, social media kind of went left. And that's when GloRilla started throwing shade, calling Mariah Tweety Bird. A clip of Mariah at the show went viral instantly, and the Tweety comments spread like wildfire. For a lot of fans, this wasn't just a casual joke. It felt like the start of something bigger, especially since Thug's leaked jail calls about Glo had already been circulating. And sure enough, Glo didn't just leave it online, she took it straight to the booth. Over the beat of the Hot Styles classic from Young Jock, looking at here, GloRilla unloaded a whole diss, taking aim at Young Thug and sliding in jabs at Mariah too. She mocked Thug's style, his femininity, even turned his nickname into Young Bug. But what really got through this was how she came at Mariah, calling her Sir Word of Prue, saying that she had a brain the size of a pea and clowning her for standing by Thug through all the cheating rumors. Beauty and the Freak looking at B. Brain size of a pea looking at B. I don't care if he cheat looking at B. Long as he come home to me looking at B. That right there flipped the whole internet upside down. Not just because it was funny or mean, but because Mariah and Glo were literally on stage together this summer at Hot 107.9's birthday bash in Atlanta. And they looked cool back then, like sisters in the same lane, and now months later Glo was dissing her right in front of the world. Even though Glo said that this was all fun and games, fans weren't buying it, especially not after what came next, because that leak call did expose why she was even mad in the first place. Right when people thought it was just a playful rap shade, the leaked jailhouse phone call from Young Thug blew everything wide open. In the recording, Thug was talking to Mariah, and he didn't hold back on how he felt about GloRilla. He straight up called her ugly, clowned her wig, dragged her frame, and even said he would never pursue her. His words cut deep. Long ass, bullish wig, skinny frame, dang big head, big mouth. I wouldn't pursue her at all, ever.
GloRilla. She.
Yeah.
Why do people say she pretty? That be ugly as fuck.
You think she ugly?
You said it. Long ass, bullshit ass wig, skinny shit. Goddamn. Big ass head, big mouth. Man, watch out.
Now for Glow, that was a knife in the back, because imagine being compared to Rihanna one week and then having one of the biggest rappers in Atlanta laugh at the idea of even looking your way. So when Glow hit the booth, she wasn't just taking random shots, she was responding to that phone call, cause Thug embarrassed her on a recorded line and then Mariah was in there laughing and kikiing, and that's why Glow went for both of them. And she even joked about Thug once trying to flirt with her before, flipping it back on him in a diss track. But what hit harder was her targeting Mariah, accusing her of tolerating disrespect and as long as she had the girlfriend title. And that's the part fans zeroed in on, because instead of sounding like harmless bars, it was starting to go low and it seemed like there was some bitterness mixed with something darker. But after that leak went viral, the Thug scrambled and he hopped on X to apologize and writing directly to GloRilla. Glow, first of all, I'm sorry to you for my words and I honestly don't think you're ugly at all. I was speaking from jail, just having a hard time with life. I don't like bash girls and hardly ever did. I'm sorry to you, twin. Not twin, but fans were definitely not buying it, especially because the apology felt too little too late, especially by then, and Glow had already flipped the insult into her own marketing moment. And for Mariah, this was the worst possible timing. She had just dropped her album Heart Sold separately in August and was announcing her 2026 tour, and instead of headlines about her music, she was trending for being dragged into a diss track called Tweety Bird with a pea-sized brain and sitting with her man quiet while her man clowned another woman on the phone. Well, while GloRilla was clowning and turning pain into bars, Young Miami popped out with a totally different energy. A clip went viral of her recording Mariah mid-conversation, and instead of piling on, she stopped and said, "My friend is so pretty."
My friend is so pretty. Oh, first of all, the walk.
And then Mariah stuck her tongue out, smiled, and kept on talking. It was quick, but the internet ate it up, and fans loved seeing Mariah glowing despite the drama, and Miami hyping her up like a real friend should. And this wasn't just a cute little moment, it was Miami putting a stamp of approval on Mariah, almost like she was saying, "We not letting Glow tear her down." But instead, it didn't stop at Miami showing love. On social media, Miami also made some slick comments shading Glow, questioning why her dishes always circle back to skin tone and looks instead of talent. And that's what fans started calling out too. Glow's bars about Thug were harsh, but the way she touched on Mariah felt interesting. One fan tweeted, "Since GloRilla wanna be a colorist, this you? Mariah look way better and even Whoopi Goldberg look better. Girl, you got work done. Be effing for real." Then another person wrote, "GloRilla is a colorist and it comes out every time she gets into it with someone." And that's where Miami's defense hit hardest, not just because she hyped up Mariah, but because she basically positioned Glow as bitter, insecure, and pushing colorist vibes. And in hip-hop, where image and solidarity matter, that's a dangerous label to get stuck with. Remember, Miami had just supported Mariah's album rollout in Atlanta with Queen Naija weeks before all this exploded. So her defending Mariah wasn't random, it was loyalty. Miami knows what it feels like to be dragged online, to have your looks clowned, and she wasn't about to let Mariah stand alone in that storm. And that moment shifted the narrative. Instead of Mariah being seen as the girl caught in the middle of Thug's mess, Miami reframed her as the woman worth protecting, someone too talented and too smart to be reduced to a Tweety Bird diss. At first, folks laughed at the Tweety Bird and Winnie the Pooh bars, but when the smoke cleared, the internet started dissecting what GloRilla really said, and that's when the word colorist started getting thrown around heavy. People noticed Glow hit Thug with brutal punches about his style and image, but when it came to Mariah, the shots weren't about her talent or music. They were about her looks and skin tone being the unspoken undertone. Others dug deeper, pointing out that Glow has a habit of bragging about being a red bone in her lyrics, almost like she sees it as an advantage over darker skinned women. And that's why her bars about Mariah kinda cut different. Folks was comparing how Glow attacked Thug versus how she attacked Mariah, and Thug got roasted for everything under the sun, his dreads, his skirts, even his flirting, but Mariah, she barely got touched except for looks related shots. Some saw that as a bias. So was Glow pulling punches because Mariah is lighter skinned, or was she just acknowledging that she is talented and didn't want to touch on that? Well, the narrative that Young Miami is doubling down on is colorism, because she defended Mariah, making it less about rap beef and more about representation in hip-hop, and once the colorism label sticks, it's not easy to shake. And even though Glow insisted her diss tracks was just fun, the damage was done. Instead of her bars going viral for being clever, the bigger conversation was about whether she just exposed her own insecurities and prejudice. In hip-hop, image is everything, and being called a colorist can be a career ending if it snowballs. And just ask Danny Lee, who faced backlash after her Yellow Bone controversy. Glow now risks being placed into that same category. But after all that backlash, GloRilla doubled down on her diss, saying it was all fun and games. She framed the track as a playful banter, not a real attack, almost like she was just testing out bars, keeping her name buzzing. But fans weren't laughing. They pointed out while she just made a joke about Thug, these digs at Mariah felt personal, especially the way she leaned into her looks instead of artistry. Then came the petty twist. Glow unfollowed Mariah on socials, and that little click spoke louder than her whole diss track. It showed that she wasn't just saying it for fun. There was some tension there, because tweets started flooding in, with one saying, Glow unfollowed the backstabbing fake skank with low self-esteem Mariah, the male-centered scientist. And that insult only made the situation worse, because it came off bitter too. Like Glow was hurt that Mariah laughed during Thug's phone call. And even when Glow insisted her diss was jokes, fans kept dragging her. The Colorist label stuck, and instead of people praising her bars, the talk was about her insecurities. And that's a dangerous spot for any artist trying to build longevity, especially a woman in hip-hop where public image is half the battle. But the irony is, by going so hard on Mariah, she made Mariah look more sympathetic, especially once Young Miami hyped her up. So instead of weakening Mariah's brand, Glow diss gave her more visibility. And through it all, Mariah never fired back. She didn't even subtweet, didn't drop a clapback song herself, or didn't even shade Glow in interviews. Instead, she focused on her Heart Sold Separately tour announcement and kept popping up with Young Miami, smiling unbothered. And that silence made her look even stronger, like she was above all the haters. But meanwhile, Glow was left in the hot seat, defending herself from accusations that her diss wasn't about bars and about bias. This beef might look like just another round of rap disses, but the way it spiraled says a lot about hip-hop right now. We've seen it before. Azalea Banks versus Cardi B versus Lil Kim, where battles between women turn into bigger cultural conversations about image, respect, and who gets to define beauty. Now, GloRilla's bars hit the wrong nerve though, because they echoed a long-running issue, colorism, in the industry. And fans didn't just hear a joke, they heard a pattern. Lighter women being uplifted while darker-skinned women getting dragged. And even if Glow didn't mean it that way, perception matters, and right now perception is turning against her. Meanwhile, Young Miami played it smart. She didn't have to write a diss or a hop on a track. All she did was gas up Mariah and mock Glow's insecurity and let fans do the rest. And that's a strategy, positioning herself as the one who supports women while letting Glow look bitter. But honestly, it worked. Instead of Glow's diss track being the headline, the story is now about Miami defending Mariah and Glow being accused of colorism. And Miami flipped the entire narrative without even touching that mic. So where does it go from here though? A few possibilities could go down. Glow could double down, keep dropping disses, but risk tanking her image if the colorism narrative grows. Or Mariah could stay silent, keep stacking tour dates, and comes out looking like the classy one. Or Young Miami might ride this wave to build her own brand back as a defender of women in hip-hop, especially with the City Girls on a shaky run. But let's not forget, Young Thug is still in the middle of a RICO battle. Every time his name pops up with Mariah or Glow, it drags him right back into the headlines that he don't need. At the end of the day go in. This isn't just about a little Tweety Bird joke or a pea-sized brain or a jail call. It's about two women in hip-hop who are forced to navigate an industry where looks, tone, and loyalty get weaponized against them. And it's about how one misstep or one careless bar can shift an artist from a fan favorite to a villain overnight. And Mariah played it cool, but Young Miami turned it into a power move. And GloRilla, well, she's learning the hard way that once the internet calls you a colorist, the stain doesn't wash out easy. But what do y'all think about this? Did Glow go too far, or was this just normal rap competition and jokes? Is Young Miami really trying to stand up for women, or is she just chasing clout, trying to shade Glow? And most importantly, is Mariah the Scientist about to come out on top of this drama and bigger than before? Drop your thoughts in comments below, hit that like button, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next time the culture explodes.